What's up, everyone? Welcome to another podcast episode. This one is going to be very, very different than all the podcasts I've done so far. My only favor, recommendation, request is that if you can help me share this podcast to bring awareness in the world, or at least in United States, that this problem exists and we need to talk about this problem. What is this problem I'm talking about? You might have heard this term called Documented Dreamers and Child's Act and all of this. We'll talk about that in details. Deep and Vrinda, who are the guests of this podcast, they're going to share their journey, their side of the story, how this problem impacts their life. But let me give you a quick scenario of what this problem is. Imagine you came to United States at very young age, from 2 years to 5 years or even younger or maybe older. But like when you were minor. And obviously, if you are 2 years, 5 years young, you are coming on a dependent visa of your parents who are working or doing business or whatever. And now when you turn 21, you become independent. You're no more dependent on your parents' visa. Obviously, because of that, you cannot use dependent visa. And the problem is there is no legal path for these kids who have grown up, who basically did the entire their education. Your life is in United States. You basically have no ties. If you are growing up since 2 years old, you don't have ties back into your home country. So your country is United States, but there's no legal path for you to attain citizenship or green card or anything. And that is the problem we're going to talk about in this video. Over 200,000 kids who are going through this problem, and that's why I'm making this video, so we can make people aware of this problem. There are some resolution we are proposing to government. We need your support to make a lot of people aware of this. That's all I ask. That's why I said in the beginning that if you can just share this video with your friends and family on your social media, maybe comment, which will help grow this to on YouTube, so that way people are aware of this problem. Now I'll let you enjoy the podcast. Thank you, Rinda and Deep, for doing this. Really means a lot. I feel like today is like my big day. Like it's like my launch into something more bold, and maybe even I would say like this is why I was doing like today. You guys validated why I do what I do. So feel very privileged to share your guys' story and what everything we're going to talk about. So I'm very excited. So, but before we do that, let's do a quick intro. Where are you guys from? What do you guys do right now? And fun stuff about you.
Well, first of all, Yudi, thank you so much for having us. Getting the opportunity to share our story means the world. Uh, my name is Vrinda Punj. I am from Boston, Massachusetts, and currently I work as a software engineer at Red Hat.
Nice. Making big money. No, just kidding. But go ahead, Deep.
I just want to echo what Brenda said. Thank you so much for giving us a chance to share our story to your audience. And my name is Deep Patel. I am a pharmacist near Chicago, Illinois.
Nice. Wow. So, like, do you actually like have like is it CVS, Walgreens, or is it like?
No, I actually work for a health system, so for a hospital. It's
Oh,
for a hospital, yeah, as a clinical pharmacist.
nice. Cool. Awesome. So, and again, I have done an intro so people already know what this is going to be about. But if you had to explain something, somebody like what is Documented Dreamers, and give us like a 30-second spiel, like what would you guys do?
So we are from Improve the Dream. We are an organization bringing awareness for young immigrants who are raised and educated in the United States, but they age out of the immigration status when they turn 21. So a lot of people don't know that it's possible to be brought here as a child, as a young child on a visa, and then grow up here and still not have a path to citizenship. And that's the situation that we are in, and that's what we're bringing awareness for. There's over 200,000 young people in this situation, the majority of whom are from Indian origin. So our parents came from India, but due to the broken immigration system, there's it's led to a lot of problems, and essentially children age out and then face having to leave the country.
Mm. So why is it called? So you guys are called Documented Dreamers, right?
Yes.
And so why is that?
So the reason for that is the term dreamer has become used for children who were brought here at a young age, often in some sort of an undocumented status. So there's been a big movement for years about to help bring change for dreamers. But unfortunately, what happened in the past is it left out this population because this group came, their parents came on visas. And because they had some sort of a visa status, that means that they weren't considered dreamers or didn't get qualification under DACA, which was a policy that allowed people who were brought here at a
Yeah.
young age to be able to stay. But so the documented part is to just say that this group wasn't able to qualify even though they were documented, and the terminology has just caught on, and that's what we've been referred to as documented dreamers. Yeah.
Yeah, just to kind of add on to that, actually, the reason why I think we use the word documented dreamers actually is because in DACA, like when the actual executive order, what it says is that you must be brought into the country at a young age as a minor and have been illegal, have been undocumented at a certain point. So that is the stipulation. That is the actual language. So a lot of people in our situation would actually qualify for the DACA program. We'd be allowed to get EADs. We'd be allowed to work and be and kind of have protections against deportation. But unfortunately, because we are brought here and kind of stay here as in a documented status, never an undocumented status, we are not protected. So that's kind of where that's kind of an additional thing, like why the word documented is there.
Got it. And Improve the Dream is like you guys founded this and you guys started this it's a non-profit, right? It's a non-profit organization.
Yes, it's a youth-led grassroots organization and movement that the origins go back about 5 years now, when I initially started grassroots advocating for this issue. Back when really there wasn't much attention at all, and I think over the past several years there's been a lot of progress, and here we are on your show, so we must be doing something right.
I feel I am privileged to have you guys here, so it's opposite, but that's awesome. And it makes me feel like I'm talking to founder, CEO. So hopefully you guys will become like even the corporate companies. And nice. So for my audience who probably is very similar to me, who didn't know that this problem exists, and even I was sharing with my wife and mother-in-law about you guys, and my mother-in-law's first reaction is like, how is that even possible? So I'm guessing very a lot of my audience is also in the same boat. So let's kind of dive into the stories. Like what do you guys, when did you come to United States, and what is this problem we are talking about, and how does this problem affect you guys personally? So maybe Vrinda, we should start with your story and then we'll go to Deep's story.
Sure. Thanks, Yudi. So I originally moved to the United States on a H-4 visa. I was my dad came to this country on a project back in 2004. And my mom and I were in India living together, and my dad was here. But it was a year later, and in 2005, when I was just 6 years old, my dad was like, "This project is not ending, so you guys should probably come and live with us." And so I was 6 years old when I first came to the country as an H-4 dependent, and long story short, I spent about 5 years living here, and then my dad's H-1 actually expired, so we had to move to the United Kingdom. My dad worked at Deloitte for the time, and then they kind of transferred him over to a branch in the United Kingdom. That aspect of self-deportation as a young kid was absolutely horrific. Like, nobody wants to leave what you consider your home. Like, I consider the United States to be my home. And then my dad tried really hard to kind of bring us back. And so I was very, very lucky and very fortunate enough that my dad was able to get transferred back on a I believe L1 visa. Yeah. I came in as an L1 dependent back a year and a half later. And then he changed his visa to an H-1B visa. I was again on an H-4 visa, and after spending so much of my life here, I aged out of my H4 visa at the age of 21 2 years ago.
And let's talk about aged out, because I think that's the term which is the most important in this conversation. Like, what does aging out means?
So aging out essentially means that basically like, so I have parents who came here who are professionals. My dad is a professional who works in a company, and the company sponsors him. So what he's allowed to do is he's allowed to bring his family over. He's allowed to bring his spouse and his children as essentially dependents.
Mm-hmm.
And when you bring your spouse over, you can sponsor your spouse over, and they can stay with you as long as you can. But unfortunately, what happens is that when with your kids, if you bring them on some sort of visa, any visa like
Mm-hmm.
H1B or a E2 or an L1, any kind of dependent visa for your
Mm-hmm.
kids, the moment you turn 21 years old, um,
You're
you
no longer dependent.
you are
Yeah.
no longer dependent on your parents' visa status. You're tossed out on your own. And there's another aspect to this aging out as well. In my case, means that my dad in 2017 applied for a green card.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a beneficiary under his application.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and aging out also means that you no longer qualify under your parents'
Mm,
green card application. So the pathway to citizenship, you lost that as well.
yeah. Yeah. And even though you spend like more than 15 years of your life here, it doesn't, there is no significance of you staying here, right? Like, that's the main thing. Like, and then they have to leave because now they become independent, and they're no longer valid to dependent.
I think
So
that's a really good point
yeah.
because that's really the most significant point. There's no mechanism in the United States immigration system that allows people, even if they've been here for 15, 20 years, to be able to stay or apply for a green card. A lot of other countries have something like that,
Hmm.
but because there's nothing like that, that's why people have to age out and possibly leave the country, the only
Right.
country they've known, right?
Yeah.
So
I guess one more question for Vrinda is, so you are in United States, you said you are in Boston. How did you come back again then? So you
So
had to leave. When how old were you at that time?
so I left when I was about so I moved at the age of 6 and left around 11 years old. And I moved to the UK, and my family was very devastated, obviously, because we kind of settled. And what happened was that my dad wanted to file for a green card, but then the financial crisis hit in
Mm,
2008, and companies just stopped sponsoring green cards altogether. So we were forced to leave. So we moved to the UK, and how we got back is my dad tried really hard to get his company to re-transfer him back into the United States. And we were, like I said, I mean, very, very, very lucky. I
mhm.
count my blessings every day
Yeah, yeah.
that I was lucky enough to get back, because I understand that there are people who have had to deport and who do not have that opportunity. So I do want to say that I feel very lucky. But then again, I've also been here for 15 years, and
Mm,
I have no long-term way of staying here. I'm currently on a student visa right now. I bought time with that. I'm doing an OPT. I'm on my
mm.
STEM OPT, and in 2 years it expires, and I might have to leave the country that I've only known like.
And that is if you didn't get picked up in H1B. I'm assuming you will apply for
I
H1B
did
for.
apply, and I got rejected
Uh,
this year. Yeah.
oh, got it. So two more chances for you. No, that's so hard. And so did you had to go out again for H4, or did you just do the status change from H4 to F1?
So yeah. So in like my dad, I came on as a dependent of an L1, and my dad then switched to H1B for soon after we moved
Yeah.
back. And then from H4, when I turned 20, I knew I was about to age out of my parents' H4 visa. So I was in college at the time. So I had to do a change of status from an H4 to an F1 visa.
And and then did you also had to do interview for your F1 or no?
No, so for change of status, you don't have to do an interview because I haven't left the country, but I know, and I can kind of get into that like details of how horrible the interview is for F1. Uh,
Right, and that's my fear. Like, so my guess is you haven't been to India, or you or even outside United States, because when you come back, you have to have a stamp on your passport.
Yes, the biggest worry is that I know you do a lot of things about this. So I've seen your channel a lot, and one of the things you do is you talk about ties to your home country. I know that that's one of the
Mhm.
things that you do. But when I'm on an F1 visa and I've lived abroad for the last I've 17 years, I have no ties to India. So once I go to get my passport stamped, they're gonna reject me. I cannot prove ties to my
Yeah.
home country. There's no way I
Yeah.
can do that. You cannot leave without coming back, like without a
Mm.
guarantee of coming back.
I can't imagine the situation, but I understand. It's scary place to be in. I want to ask few more questions, but I want to hear Deep's story. So, like, I know that your story is a little different than Vrinda's story. So,
Yeah.
when did you come in to United States?
So I also was born in India. And then when I was 4 years old, my parents immigrated. They actually first moved to Canada before they came to the United States. They moved to the Canada about 22 years ago. And then a few years later, the Canadian immigration system is actually much simpler than the
Mm,
United States. They were able to become Canadian citizens. And then they had an opportunity to move to the United States. Well, I was still in elementary school, and that's when we moved. We first moved to Illinois in a small rural town in southern Illinois, and that's where I grew up. And through all of my elementary school, middle school, high school there. I mean, I knew like we weren't citizens, but at the same time, I never thought that this would be something that could be an obstacle, even nearly 18 years later, right?
yeah.
But once I had to get a driver's license, I realized, okay, my situation is different than my friends. Not being able to work, and then for colleges, not being able to get in-state tuition in most states.
Why can you not work? Because you can't apply for EAD?
Yeah, there's no EAD for dependent children of the visa holders. So
Wow, I
yeah.
didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, so usually the dependent spouses for like E visas or H visas do, but the children can't. And I forgot to mention, yeah, so my parents came on an E2 visa, which is different than the H1B. The E2 visa is one that's available to immigrants from I think over 70 different countries, and they
Mm,
can come here and start like a small business, and that's what they did. They had given up. They've like all immigrant parents, they're really hardworking and they'd given up all they had to be able to start a small business and move here. And actually, though, in the scenario of the backlog, so my parents didn't face a backlog. It's that they didn't have a path to citizenship. The E2 visa,
mm.
essentially, you can renew that every few years, but you can never apply for a green card from it. So they weren't in a backlog, but the
Wow.
other families who are in a backlog, for example, like in Vrinda's situation, the reason that exists was because there's this country caps quota,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that leads to that backlog, right? And
Right.
that didn't exist significantly more than 10 years ago, right?
Yeah.
10 or 12.
Yeah.
So people back then didn't really have any idea that this is what was going to happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, so after high school, I ended up going to a accelerated PharmD program, a doctorate in pharmacy program in St. Louis.
Mm.
And then I graduated from that in 2019. And then, had the 1 year of OPT as an
Mm.
international student.
So
I had to
even
do,
you converted yourself into F1?
yes, I had to change my status to F1 before I turned 21 as well. So
Okay.
to be able to stay, that was the only way to be able to
Mm.
stay.
Mm.
Fortunately, though, I will say, like, because of my Canadian citizenship, I'm more fortunate in that it's easier to change status, at the border, or it
All
was an
right.
easier
Yeah.
process than if someone had to go back to India, as some people often have to do.
And what is the mission statement? Like, what are you guys trying to do? Are you guys trying to create a path because there is no path for you guys, right? Like that's the main thing.
The main mission is really the vision is to arrive at a point where every child who grows up in the United States has a path to stay and a path to citizenship. But to achieve that, our mission is to raise awareness for the
Mm.
specific issue of aging out, so that we can permanently end aging out, and that, in the future, no one has to go through what we did. No one has to worry about being separated from the only country they know, their home, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I do want to explain my audience there's a difference between being born in United States and then coming after you're being like born. So my kid, if I have a kid right now and he's born in United States, he's most likely, I mean, not most likely, he will be citizen because he's born here. But if I have a kid who's in India, like in if I have a kid in India and his is born there, he's gonna be Indian citizen. And then even if I am here, no matter what it is, he's still gonna come on dependent visa. I mean, it's gonna be a little different because I'm on green card already, and obviously my wife is American citizen. But there's a difference between born in United States versus born in some other country. So you guys obviously came here at very very young age, like 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, and did your high school, middle school, all of that. You have your friends here. You've grown up here, but still not considered as a part of it because you don't have any path. Like even after 15 years of staying in United States, correct? Like there's just no path. So how would you like what's your recommendation then? Do you guys have recommendation for government? Like how would you want to fix this?
Absolutely. One of the simplest things that I've always thought about is why there wasn't something in the laws where, if you had been brought here as a child, you've been here for a certain period of time, let's say 10 years, and you go to school here, once you graduate, you should be able to get a green card or at least apply for a green card.
Yeah.
I think some other countries have similar things, and that really was a kind of the vision. And we were able to introduce a bill last year called America's Children Act, which would do
Mm,
exactly that. And in addition to that, it would also fix gaps in the system where a child wouldn't age out of the system if their
right.
parent has a pending green card application. Brenda.
Yeah, I remember seeing that bill. I don't think I made a video because I didn't know, but now I know someone who actually worked on that bill. So
Yes.
that's so cool. So did you guys come up with that whole bill or
Yes, so it's actually something that had been in the works for several years. It was really hard to be able to make this a big enough issue, get enough awareness for it where someone was willing to lead it.
yeah.
And finally, we were able to do that. And we're so grateful for her name is Congresswoman Deborah Ross,
Mhm.
who really championed this issue. She's from North Carolina, and she's the one who first introduced this bill. And then in the Senate, Senator Padilla also introduced that. And yeah, it's been absolutely great. It's gotten great bipartisan support. So both Democrats and Republicans have supported this policy change. And the hope is that, hopefully by the end of this year, we'll have good news and some of those
So
policies.
wait. I missed that part. So it passed both Senate and did it pass? No.
No, so it's been introduced in both the Senate and the House, and it has good support. It has both Republican and
Okay.
Democrat support. Yeah.
And so what stage is it? Like when does the voting happen on it?
So for voting, there's a few different things. So
I'm sorry, I'm very excited now.
no, so there's different steps. A lot of times, for issues that have gotten a lot of attention, they hold hearings on the issue.
Mm,
And so a hearing is when a committee in Congress holds, there's different committees, and the main immigration committee would hold a hearing on issues. And we
mm.
actually had a hearing in the Senate
Yeah, that's the
just
video you
last
guys
month.
sent me, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. So I'll put that video link, first link in the description so people can actually watch that video.
So
It's
that
it's
was a
very powerful. Yeah.
Absolutely. Her name was Atulya Rajakumar. She's also a member of Improve the Dream, and that was a very significant moment for all of us because hearings don't happen every day, and the fact that they were willing to invite someone from Improve the Dream to testify on this issue, I think was a big deal because after that hearing, we've gotten even more support, bipartisan support from the senators to fix this issue with America's Children Act.
Mm.
But to go back to your question, so after the hearing, now there's a lot of things that go on in the background, but the hope is at some point in the coming months we can have a markup. That's another legal term that means like it's the next step. They mark up the bill in committee, and then they can then move it to the floor for a vote.
Okay. And like I said, I didn't know this problem, and like my mother-in-law said, like, how could this even be a problem? So I'm pretty sure she's watching this video. She will watch it when I upload it, and she's definitely gonna be your supporter. So super cool. What's next? Like, how can we or my audience help you?
Yeah. There was something I just wanted to quickly add on that might be helpful in
Mhm.
context for the audience too.
Can I ask you this question? Because
Yeah.
I think it'll be so obviously we are just sharing the story of you and Vrinda right now, but how many people have been affected by this? And I know you said roughly 200,000. What's the like? Can you share that a little bit about that?
Yeah, so there's over 200,000 children in this situation in the United States right now.
Wow.
And every year there's approximately 5 to 10,000 of those who face self-deportation because they age out of the system. So they age out at 21 and then they have to possibly leave the country.
Even it's so hard because they don't have a life outside United States, right? Like, I mean, people who are leaving, I mean, you guys, you spend your friends, your family, everything is here. You don't have any yes, your parents probably have someone in India or Canada for you, but you don't have anything if you have to self deport.
Yeah, and Yudi, you mentioned something kind of interesting, which was how many people are affected, right? It's actually probably like over 1 million if you were to count the like the siblings, the family, because this is causing families like the biggest thing is that this is causing family separation, right? Like I can give an example. My sister, so after I moved to the United States, my sister was born in the United States. So
Mm,
she has lived her whole life in the US. So if I were to leave, like I would be separated from my sister. My parents, like my dad does a job here. He's waiting for his green card. So I'll be separated from my parents as well.
mm,
And so like
mm.
that type of like anxiety is also not only affecting me directly, but it's
Yeah,
affecting my whole family as well.
yeah,
Like, that type of thing.
right. Yeah. Wow. I'm sorry. I'm like I don't know. Typically, when I've done podcasts, like it's much easy for me to come up with conversation. But like for me to even fathom this fact, like I've grown up here, all my friends are here. Like I don't have any family back or maybe friends in India. So if I have to go back, like that dreads me. And it's not. And I want to kind of focus on this. Like it's not that you guys are wanting to be an American or something like that. You have been living here, right? So it's so hard to think about. I mean, for me, it's so hard to process this. Yeah.
And I do have to say one thing as well. I do have to say that I'm so thankful to Deep for starting this because when I was growing up, I didn't know anybody who was like me. And this is what you'll hear in a lot of people. If you were to speak to some more documented dreamers, many will tell you that, a lot like when you kind of explain your situation, you try to explain your situation to your friends or to, anyone really. Nobody knows that we exist actually.
Hmm.
Most the kind of responses that I have typically gotten have been something like, can't you just take an immigration test to get your
Yeah.
and I have to say that no, I have to get a green card. They're like, why can't you just get it, like stand and wait in line? And there's no way to explain that I would wait in line if there was a line for me to wait in, but I
Yeah.
got thrown out of the line.
Right.
And nobody, and so that's why, like, for example, a podcast like yours and kind of spreading awareness is so important, because figuring out, like, fixing a problem is only possible if you first acknowledge the problem. But if you
Yeah.
don't know the problem exists, you can't fix it.
Right.
And that's like one of the biggest challenges our community faces. Nobody really knows that we exist. I myself didn't know I exist, like other people like me existed,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
that's what makes this situation particularly difficult to solve. It's an uphill battle.
Yeah.
um
Yeah. Yeah, but and so you are getting support from, and what's the next step for you guys now?
So the next step right now is to continue building support for America's Children Act in Congress, and that would hopefully we can get that done this year. So if it becomes law, all of these people would be
Mm,
protected. There's
mm,
also things that the President Biden's administration can do, and some of that we've also worked on. We worked with members of Congress and senators for a letter recently that was sent to the President Biden's administration, and we were able to get over 50 members of Congress to sign on to say
mm.
that they need to do something for documented dreamers like us, who were excluded from, the DACA program, which unfortunately didn't include people who had some sort of a documented status.
Mm, mm.
Adding on to that, there are other solutions that will not fix, like they're not going to fix everything. Like really, America's Children Act is the one thing that is going to fix the
Mhm,
situation.
mhm.
But there are secondary side effects. Like for example, like E2 visas will not get affected, but about 75% of us, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong,
Yeah.
are children of people on H1Bs, specifically from India, who've been waiting on a green card
Yeah.
backlog that's over 100 years long. So by eliminating the per country caps, this situation for future documented dreamers, people who are, maybe 15 or 16 right now, but they are going to age out because their
Mhm.
parents are not going to get a green card in time. If Congress is able to lift those per country caps, for example, that will make a huge, significant difference in like just mitigating some of these things as well.
Yeah.
Really, America's Children Act will fix this problem, but there are other like bills like the Eagle Act, for example,
Right.
which
Yeah.
Those
fixes
would
the per
fix the
country
root
caps.
cause. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, will fix some of the root causes exactly.
Yeah, no, and thank you for sharing both of your stories. I think it's very important for people to even be aware of this, and that's the goal for me. And my hope is that this video will reach to so many people that at least they will understand what the problem is, like Brinda said, and become aware that this problem exists and there are people who are suffering from this problem. So yeah, thank you for sharing. And yeah, it's mind blowing that you guys actually made a progress. You thought of creating Improve the Dream. I'll put all the links in the description so people can reach out to you guys if you want to talk to them. However I can help you guys.
If anyone watching is in this situation, as a dependent visa holder or aged out or, any of that situation, if you go to improvethedream.org, there's a survey that you can take to join the community, get a link to a private Slack group for Improve the Dream, which has, hundreds of people, and join the network of 1,000 plus to be able to connect with others and get advice and really just join the community and stay updated. So, um, if you know someone who's in that situation, definitely feel free to share the website.
Sounds good. Yeah, and I'll celebrate, and hopefully we will hear some good news by the end of this year. And if that happens, we'll make another follow up video, like to kind of talk about what does that mean now.
And for any of your audiences that are, U.S. citizens and want to take action, actually anyone at all who's watching and wants to help, you can go to improvethedream.org/advocacy.
One second, let me share.
Oh, yeah. So for anyone who wants to take action, please go to improvethedream.org. And here you can find a way to, send letters to your senators and call
Mm,
Congress, etc., to get to basically rally up support behind America's Children Act, which will help people like us.
yeah, and is this like it doesn't have to be just document, like if my
It could be
mother-in-law,
anyone.
me, I can also go and do this, right, to help you
Anybody,
guys. Yeah.
yes.
Cool. Thank you so much for doing this. Is there anything you would like to share or end the video with?
I just want to say thank you so much for giving us this opportunity, and thank you, Yudi, for everything you do, bringing light to so many different things. And it's just great to connect with your audience too.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's my pleasure. Like I said, I feel privileged to do this. Yeah.
Honestly, like I have to say the same thing. Your channel has helped me a lot with career advice and all that
Mhm.
stuff, because that's one of the biggest things, is that, you know, the only way to stay in this country is really for us to kind of, you know, rally forward with our career, try
Yeah.
hard as we can to get an H1, get all that stuff. And so, like, you know, watching your channel inspired me so much, and helped a lot. So
Yeah.
aside from having us, thank you for everything else that you do on the side for the immigrant community.
Oh yeah, thank you. That means a lot. Again, thank you so much for sharing your story. I can't wait to put this out to my audience, and I'll also make some IG reels out of this so we can connect on my Instagram and share on Instagram as well. But again, thank you so much, and until our next one.
Keep smiling.
Keep hustling.
I love it.